Hello, everybody. So this stream is going to be the one on sort of a topic, and it's going to be about Chernobyl and other sort of disasters similar to Chernobyl, so nuclear incidents, because quite a lot of people said, could I do a stream where we talked about Chernobyl? So in this stream, obviously, it's going to be on the topic of Chernobyl and other similar disasters. All right, everybody? All right, Peach. I forgot to do a thing for this one because I was going to do one of those scheduled announcements on YouTube, and then I had a nap as soon as I got in. I've been asleep for a couple of hours. Yeah, I'll show that before I start. There you go. Looks quite good in orange. It's comfortable. So it's got one of those big kangaroo pockets in the middle there, look. So, yeah, just an orange hoodie. So I thought I'd wear that, so I actually wear some branded stuff for the actual stream, even though Chernobyl's actually, you know, the sort of depressing topic. Also ordered one of the S10 mugs as well, so I've got that as well as the Mark V one. So there we go. So I think the mask is pressurized to my face absolutely fine. Yeah, it has. There's that. So, right, yep. Right, cool. So, yeah, for those that didn't hear at the beginning, don't forget to like the stream if you've come on as well, because that helps out. This is going to be a themed one. Ah, cool, that came today. So, yeah, like I say, these came today. So, is Sellafield the Windscale nuclear fire? Because wasn't Sellafield the name they gave it afterwards? But, yeah, Windscale fire is very interesting as well. So, yeah, we'll go into Windscale on this stream. So this is a stream basically for nuclear incidents. Chernobyl is obviously the most famous one, so they've put that in the title. But 3 Mile Island, Fukushima, Windscale, any of the other sort of reactor incidents people want to go into, any of the nuclear bomb tests or whatever, radioactive contamination, anything like that. Right, does it taste of asbestos, Lucas? Joking, obviously there's no asbestos in the mugs. Is that a good thing, Peach, or did you want it to be sort of grayer? Because some of these colours are hard to tell, aren't they, on the website? They look a bit different when you get them. Yeah, SARS. You can talk about SAR bomb. I don't actually know much about that one, to be honest, malware. Obviously, I've heard a little bit about it, but I've only heard that there was an explosion and then there was nuclear contamination. I've not heard much at all. Yeah, exactly. Because they've done a good job of trying to cover it up already. You know, what game are you playing? Not great, not terrible. It's actually hard to find information on what's really happened. They exploded SAR bomb over a bit of the Arctic, didn't they? Sort of like if you go north of Russia. I'm not sure if it's the bit like if you go northeast of St. Petersburg, because I know some windows in Sweden and Finland were broken by the blast explosion, like the force of it, even though they were really far away. But I'm pretty sure it's the bit there. Let's have a look on the map. If I go on Google Maps, I can actually tell you the actual name of it, because it's quite easy to spot if I go to the maps. All right, let me put it to... I mean, it'll have a name I'm not going to be able to pronounce, but... it's that Krasino place, isn't it? If I'm looking at the right one, but I'm sure it's one of those kind of rocky bits there. Oh no, it's that Zevernaya Zemlya, is it? I think. That's the island group, isn't it? They did it. It was like their version of the Marshall Islands for doing it. It might be that one. But yeah, it's definitely one of those sort of islands north of Russia, like a Siberian kind of north one. I've already done a PDFD review, Fred, but I can't review them very well because obviously they're children's masks and I'm an adult. Yep, sounds very similar. I'll definitely have to do a bit more reading into it, malware. But as I said, the problem is most of the news things haven't covered it very well over here. So the issue I've had is I've not been able to find much info on it. I'm just going to see if Mike's on Twitter, because if he is, I'll let him know that the stream's on. I've sent him a message. Yeah. Oh, you're on. Cool. All right, cool. Yeah, so ignore that message. I was just saying the hoodie came, Mike. It's very nice and comfortable. And mug. I sent you a picture of those earlier, but... Yeah, it depends on your face size, but yeah. I'm going to Chernobyl next year, Lynx, because my dad was quite keen to go. So it'll probably be only like a 5-day sort of holiday where you're in Kiev for a couple of days as well. But yeah, I want to do one where you get a couple of days in the exclusion zone, not just one day in the zone. Well, in my opinion, Fred, and we're going off topic because this is meant to be a topic stream, it's because the S10, when it came out, was one of the most advanced masks. If you consider most masks in the 1980s, they were basically, you know, pretty average, where the S10 made a good face seal sort of for pretty much everybody. You could plug radio comms equipment onto the side of it. It had a drinking system that was pretty decent compared to a lot of other masks. Good field of view, you know. 3 Mile Island was a US nuclear incident. Cheers, Bingy. But yeah, tell you what, let me take the, although it's themed for the stream, and obviously I've not cut my hair off because I said to people I might do that yesterday or today, and I've not bothered. I'll do it next week. So yeah, in regards to 3 Mile Island, I can't remember the date of it without looking it up. I think it was the 70s, wasn't it? But it was where, as far as I'm aware of the 3 Mile Island incident, what happened is they had like a faulty light or something on one of their instrument panels in the control room, or the light, that if you had the light come on, it could designate loads and loads of different problems. So what happened is, because of how the training worked at the time, because people tried to work out what the cause was and fix it rather than treating the symptoms, you know, like saying the reactor's getting too hot, we need to cool it down. What ended up happening was they ended up making the incident worse, and they went into a partial meltdown, as far as I remember, with 3 Mile Island. But they did eventually cool it enough. But the reactor where it happened is still totally closed off. But luckily, because of Western reactors design compared to like USSR design, because obviously like Chernobyl didn't have a containment building, but all the Western plants did. With 3 Mile Island, although it made a lot of radioactive sort of debris and it made the reactor useless, it's trapped inside like a concrete sarcophagus anyway. So that was the only reason 3 Mile Island wasn't really dangerous, was because once they got it under control, the radioactive waste was actually trapped already in the thing. Yeah, you want to know where the hoodie is, Peach? Links below for anybody interested in the merch. No, it's quite easy to breathe with that mask, Bingley. I prefer the other version I've got up there, just because that one's got the 2 straps, not the 1 strap. But these are actually quite easy to breathe through, because you've got the plastic bit inside that keeps the mask the right shape on your face, unlike, you know, most dust masks. Then obviously the entire foam material of it is the filter, so that's the exhale valve there. So yeah, it's actually got quite a good valve design. For a sort of lightweight mask, the valve design on that is very good, because it's forcing air kind of through the foam and everything through the sides and then out the front. Again, I'd not really recommend dust masks of any type, because, you know, apart from like that Alpha Mesh one I've reviewed that's good, I keep in my car boot, for the most part, when it comes to dust masks, I think you're better off paying a bit more, getting a decent rubber half face mask, and then you get a much better level of protection. Yeah, RBMK reactors are still used, but yeah, they retrofitted them with some design improvements. But again, it's still the original reactor design with some improvements, which is a bit worrying because of how many flaws the RBMK has. But I suppose now that Chernobyl essentially became so public after Legasov's suicide, as well as retrofitting the things, the people working on the RBMK reactor actually, are told about the flaws of the reactor. They don't cover it up and pretend the reactor's perfect. I've got two Y2Ks or U2Ks EH music, but each one is slightly different. So because there's the P2 on there, the straps on that P2 look different than both of my Y2Ks. So I'm assuming there's just several variants of Y2K, U2K. All right, cool. I'll have a look later, Chris. But obviously, sadly, there's no guarantee that other nuclear disasters won't happen. Now, again, the thing is, what generally happens is every time you have a nuclear disaster, you get quite a lot of lessons learned by different nuclear industries on how to better do stuff. So when 3 Mile Island happened, they realized that what's likely to happen is you're going to have a chain reaction of smaller things that make a bigger problem. Because beforehand, they thought like you'd get a one massive failure, which apparently doesn't really seem to happen with reactors. So 3 Mile Island basically taught them to make better safety systems and, train staff differently to react to stuff. Chernobyl basically taught them to, don't cover up flaws in your reactor and actually fix them when you know they exist. Fukushima, you can't really learn much from that because it only happened because of the tsunami and earthquake. And again, it could have been a lot worse, but the people working there knew exactly what they were doing, and they did a very good job on the day of containing the disaster. There's a couple of things they did learn, like the storage of like backup generators and things like that, because they were stored in places where the tsunami damaged them. And I think they were saying that, it would have been possible in hindsight to have put the generators like on the roof of the building or something. So if there was a tsunami, they should be less likely to get damaged by the waves. There's loads of good quotes in the actual Chernobyl show, isn't there, some guy? One of the other ones I liked was, why worry about something that isn't going to happen? That's beautiful. They should put it on money. What, 85, Andre? Was that Pripyat or actual Chernobyl? Because there's a town of Chernobyl as well, isn't there? Yeah, I don't know, Wienpool, because they were saying it could have been like some sort of test thing, couldn't they, that have gone wrong. But speaking of subjects like that, if you look up US broken arrow incidents, those are pretty fascinating. What they are is where they've had accidents where they've accidentally released nuclear bombs. I'll be able to afford it anyway, Links, don't worry. We haven't talked about that yet, but that's where Mayak dumped loads and loads of radioactive waste into a lake, wasn't it? That one. Which is that really dangerous lake still. Because wasn't it they had loads of storage tanks for nuclear waste and they didn't cool them properly? And then they basically just went, oh, it's leaked. That's the one EH music, isn't it? They mention in the show, or that they based a lot of the things on. But yeah, I haven't read all that many Chernobyl books. I read a very good one that was from it was from the perspective of, it's a real non-fiction one. I think an American scientist and an Israeli scientist and doctor who were, people that were allowed in to treat some of the radiation syndrome people. Some of the people they worked with died, some of them survived, and it was because although the Soviet Union wasn't very open to outside help, they did let a few specialists in. So it's them talking about what life was like behind the Iron Curtain as a Westerner, and talking about some of the first-hand experiences. Right, see if you're off. It's not just Chernobyl, though, sadly. A lot of Western governments have done similar things, not to the degree of the Soviet Union. But if you look up the way basically all Western governments have fucked over veterans after nuclear bomb tests when they get cancers and everything else, saying nothing to do with the nuclear bombs we dropped that you were made to watch, they've all done similar things. Yeah, we'll talk a bit about the Windscale fire and Coverup now planes, because that's an interesting thing. So a good documentary on Windscale. There's a couple on YouTube, but Our Reactor is on Fire is probably the better one. And it's shorter as well, which is good. So it means they get to a lot of the information faster rather than, going on about like nuclear bombs had to be developed. Because obviously if you know about the Cold War, you don't need to know all this stuff over and over again. But so Windscale Sellafield was basically two reactors that they had for enriching uranium and plutonium for nuclear weapons development for Britain. And how they worked is they didn't create energy. They were purely for making nuclear bomb material. They had basically two identical ones, and they were like these big chimneys. And how they worked is they were an air-cooled design, not an actual water-cooled one. So they had these giant fans running. They had nuclear material sort of in these kind of almost like a honeycomb sort of design. And then the idea was that I think it got pushed through and went into kind of a trench when they'd finished enriching it so it could get pushed along. And then the chimney was obviously behind it. So what would happen is the air would blow through on the fans. It would constantly cool it so it didn't go, heat up too much and melt down. And then you'd have the chimney for the thing. So what ended up happening is prior to the fire, they'd actually had a lot of incidents of radiation leaking. And they'd built giant filters on the top of the chimneys they called follies because they said, you don't need them there. But it turned out that those filters were stopping a massive amount of radioactive contamination from leaking, but there was still shitloads of radioactive material leaking in the local area, like Sellafield and everything, and Seascale, wasn't it, I think? But yeah, that was covered up by the government because when scientists found readings on Geiger counters, they said you're misusing government property, taking those around, taking readings. So yeah, like Plain said, they got a rod stuck essentially in the thing and they couldn't get it out, and then it was getting hotter and hotter and the fire started, and I think there was also debris behind that hadn't been cleared out, which caused the fire. But then that was once they'd even put the fire out, and they eventually had to put it out with water, but they were worried about doing it with water because they were worried, would that cause more criticality problems, or all that sort of stuff using water. Again, they blame the people working there, not the design of the reactor, even though apparently Edward Teller had told them, it is Edward Teller, isn't it? Yeah, it is Edward Teller, the father of the hydrogen bomb. Even though he'd said Britain, you don't want to design a reactor like this, he'd know what he's talking about, but the government's like, no, we know more than the father of the hydrogen bomb. I don't know, I've not ever been Wienpool, but it'd be sort of interesting. Oh, that's very cool. Was that one of the light anti-gas respirators with the like air pipes on, or is it a different mask? But yeah, definitely do a video on that plane. Sounds very interesting. Because when I've seen pictures, everybody's either had light anti-gas respirators with sort of air tanks on them, or they've had like more like, yeah, like you said, ones with different filters and everything. Yeah, fire blankets are quite good, but you don't see them as much now, do you? I suppose because they can't do asbestos ones. But I've got some fire gloves that are pretty good. Not on topic. Thank you, Links. Not on topic with the Stream Iron Man, but they're the kind of, like red, weird material sort of gloves. Like they're an alternative to asbestos, and you can put your hands in. So, they're much better than oven gloves. £10 fine for a PBF. But yeah, let's get back on topic if we can to, nuclear accidents and that. So another interesting thing to read up is US broken arrow incidents where they lost nuclear weapons. Like, we don't know what happened to them. Basically, because the US has had, is it like 20 odd broken arrow incidents? It might be even more than that, it might be 30 odd, where they've had like planes crash carrying nuclear weapons and spread contamination, or they've dropped nuclear bombs by accident that thankfully didn't go off, or they've lost nuclear subs, everybody's died on them and then they couldn't find nuclear weapons afterwards. Cheers. So yeah, it's like mid-30s then, Lucas. GP7 or PMK, I don't like either, but technically the PMK would be better because it's got more features on it. Philop, yeah. But yeah, let's not get too off topic. So yeah, I'm trying to think of what some other interesting nuclear incidents are. There's also all the crazy nuclear tests that are pretty interesting to talk about. I don't know how many of you in the chat know about lots of the US and British and French and Russian and Chinese nuclear tests, but there's some pretty interesting ones, those. Yeah, completely true, Iron Man. Well, you're fucked even if you didn't directly touch it. Back then, just because how much it was. I'm really not sure mad is cool. Again, it's going to depend a bit on your opinion, but what durable is in you can't break it easily. Because the FM12 and CT12 are pretty damn durable. Some of those full polycarbonate face piece industrial masks are going to be pretty durable. Yeah, Demon Core is very interesting, Connor. Yeah, for those of you that don't know the Demon Core, it's basically where they'd made nuclear bombs for World War II. Well, ignoring Little Boy, because Little Boy was actually a uranium gun. But the two plutonium bombs, like they had Trinity to test originally. Then they had Fat Man, which was the first dropped plutonium bomb. Then I think it killed two people, didn't it, on different dates, Connor, where they both did similar things with it. But the Demon Core was essentially they had another plutonium bomb ready to drop on Japan, but Japan surrendered before they used it. So they dismantled the plutonium core to use it as like a training thing or like for scientific experiments. So with nuclear material, for those of you that don't know, and I can't really give you good advice on this because I'm definitely not a physicist and everything like that. If you get enough of the really strong nuclear material, you get criticality or supercriticality. Of plutonium or uranium, which is how you make a nuclear explosion or just, a nuclear reaction. So with the stuff, basically the Demon Core, it was the plutonium core and I think maybe some sort of moderator material that would have been in the bomb. Basically, what would have happened, you'd have had this core inside the bomb, and then how the Fat Man bombs worked is they had a ring of explosives around the bomb. Those would explode all at once, causing it to implode. And then obviously it went supercritical from the implosion. So there were no explosive involved, but the Demon Core was where they do stuff like put the bits closer and closer together to measure how much radiation it was making. So I think the first incident was where they were putting some sort of moderator bricks around the outside of it. A guy knocked the bricks over by accident. It caused the core to go supercritical and he got, acute radiation syndrome and died. Before they could dismantle the core. The second time was when a guy was using a screwdriver to demonstrate, putting the two bits of core apart from each other. Now, how they were meant to do it is they had these proper wooden wedges where you couldn't slip. But he was like, I'm a pro, I'm using a screwdriver, because it was so routine at this point to do this. And he slipped with a screwdriver, the core smacked against itself, room went bright blue with light, he got super irradiated. Everybody that was stood further away was fine. But, he was dead within a week or whatever from acute radiation syndrome. I think that'd be the same on most places on Earth, some guy YouTube. Apart from maybe animals that scavenge for food that we leave behind, but yeah. It wasn't uranium links, it was polonium they used for him. Polonium, being the one named after Poland by Marie Curie. But yeah, they put polonium in his tea, didn't they? The agents that killed him. So yeah, pretty horrible way to die. But yeah, he knew he'd been poisoned, didn't he, before he died, so he was able to testify a lot of the stuff to the police. Well, Bingley, it's already been brought up loads of times, or Bing, whatever you want to be called. But sadly, I can't tell you much on it, just because I've not seen much real news on it. I've seen lots of speculative news where they don't really know. And as a lot of people have said, it seems like Russia's trying to cover it up, so I'm going to have to definitely read into it a bit more. But I'm afraid I can't really tell you much on it, because I've not seen any concrete news on it. Is it? I didn't actually know that. But yeah, obviously I know you get thorium, polonium, tritium, uranium, plutonium, and all those. Yeah, exactly, Wayne. Like we're saying, yeah, they arranged a meeting with him, didn't they? And then they slipped into his tea a tiny amount of polonium. I don't know if it was as a liquid or like a granule. And then obviously when he ingested it, game over. It's quite interesting in terms of, and they had to do it with an alpha probe, didn't they, when they searched for contamination, because they said it was really slow going. Because they were saying that, it was one of those things that was really radioactive when you had the probe next to the polonium when they were investigating, but very low when you were just sweeping a room. Oh yeah, radium as well, of course, like on watch dials. But yeah, to give you an example of that, I can do that with this Geiger counter with the Americinium on there, American, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, to give you an example, let's say I have that thing on the American there, and I do that. Obviously, that's slightly radioactive, but not all that high. You're getting like 2 to 3 counts per second. Now, if I have the alpha probe there, watch what happens as I get the alpha probe closer and closer. So that's what the polonium was like, supposedly, when they were investigating it. But you had to get the probe really, really close to the sources of contamination to trace it. So it was really radioactive, but it was one of those things of... Well, the thing is, like I said, I'm very suspicious over the Novichok thing, just because how dangerous nerve agent is, and then they say Novichok is like 10 times deadlier than VX. You literally couldn't fuck up poisoning somebody of that. If you want my honest opinion on the Novichok thing, and I'm not saying the Russians aren't involved, what I'm saying is, I very much doubt it was a nerve agent. If you read up, they actually memory hold this, good term from 1984, but, scrub the internet of this stuff, although you can still find screenshots and like Wayback Machine pages of some of these articles. In the same park where the dad and daughter had been found with the Novichok poisoning, they'd had a lot of people have like fentanyl overdoses, fentanyl being a really strong opioid, where like, druggies were taking fentanyl and carfentanil instead of heroin. And if you don't know how, with fentanyl, it's like 50 times stronger than fentanyl's 50 times stronger than heroin. I think carfentanil is like 100 times stronger than fentanyl. So really, really strong opioids. And if you're not an actual druggie, or, somebody who's terminally ill that's being given fentanyl or carfentanil, like daily to survive, you'll basically almost die from an overdose of just touching the powder or smelling it, because of how potent it is. Because I said 50 times stronger than heroin. Heroin's 2 to 3 times stronger than morphine, to give you some idea of opioid strengths. So what I think is a much more likely theory is they came into contact with, either they were poisoned by the Russians, or there was a load of it on the bench of fentanyl or carfentanil. So basically they had opioid overdose symptoms, like very shallow breathing, unconsciousness, and lots of the things you get like that. To me, that sounds a lot more plausible. At least, to me, as I said, I wasn't there. But our government's been very suspicious over the whole thing as well. Again, that's not to say the Russians had no involvement whatsoever, but there was just so many weird things going on with that story. All right, Chernobyl, I guess, is what that game's named after. I've not actually got around to playing that yet, but my new PC should handle it fine. But yeah, Tritonite, or Tritonite, however they call it, is very interesting, isn't it? From the Trinity crater. Yeah, corium I know of, which is like the elephant's foot, isn't it? But yeah, Tritonite, they've got like a cover over it now, haven't they? Like a concrete cover, so people can't go and take it. But yeah. Oh, I love the old Geiger counter guy sounds on YouTube. It's very creepy, isn't it? It's interesting how Geiger counters sound so scary, despite the fact it's a simple tick that gets faster and faster. That's very interesting, mate. Is Fake or Fortune a sort of bargain hunt type thing where they have to see if they've got fake things or stuff that are worth a lot of money? That's very interesting. But I know, yeah, if you look up the sheer amount of nuclear tests, interestingly, the Soviets did less than the Americans, but they put more. They did like a lot of more higher yield bomb tests, like especially a Tsar bomb. So they'd actually done more explosive yields in total. I'll show you a really interesting video, actually. Let me get it up. It's not on YouTube. I'll have to link to another site, but if it lets me. So let me just try it. Do many of you know about the Alaska nuclear test? Because that's pretty fascinating. Kanakin. This is crazy if you've not seen it. There's the video on this page. There you go. Hopefully that link's work. Let me know if it's not. All right, cool. I'll see if I can find a clip from it, Weapon Collector. Oh, sorry, Mike, because it's one of those things I probably wouldn't watch an entire episode for that, but that's something I find very interesting. But yeah, this is insane, this one. If you don't know, Atomic Journeys is like the sequel to Trinity and Beyond. It's got Shatner narrating it again, because they've done quite a few sort of films like Trinity and Beyond, the people that did it. And this is the 5 megaton underground nuclear test they did on Alaska Nature Reserve, because why not? And you actually literally see the ground rippling like that when they set the bomb off, and it permanently moves a lot of the ground and sea level at the time. Oh, like my deactivated gun's worth nothing. I don't know. I'd go up to the person and say, mate, here's some notes. No questions asked. You sell me that gun. What type of gun was it, Bing? Yeah, it's gone quiet now in the chat. Yeah, don't forget, I'll show my merch here. Vladimir's not on to remind me, but if you like merchandise and you want to support the channel, if you look below at the Teespring stuff, loads of different designs on there. When I say loads, there's like a GP5, Mark 5, and the S10, but there'll be more on there at some point. But yeah, also, if you also wanted to donate, you can do it via the super chat on the side, or you can do it via Patreon below, and I appreciate any of those because it helps go towards masks and other stuff. Because obviously where I have to buy all this stuff, it does cost me money. So if people donate, it goes towards all the YouTube stuff. Yeah, well, the interesting thing, Links, is before that test, although that's the most crazy one, they had done some in America. And they were basically seeing, can we do these underground nuclear bomb tests without the Soviets or anybody else finding out? And there was one, I think it was a 1 megaton one. They did like 30 miles north of Vegas or something. And that was one where they were hoping it would just go completely fine. And then it opened up like massive fissures in the ground. And they're like, no, we're not going to be able to hide this, are we? I suppose that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, Mike? Because if it didn't have that on, it would be after the atomic test ban stuff. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Well, the thing is, CT12 is so similar to the S10 that I'd have to get Bart to draw 2 very similar ones. So I've just got the S10 one because I said more people asked for that. Obviously, as you notice, it's got the NBC ridge around the outside of the mask on there. But Yeah, I'm sure he'll do a panoramic one at some point. He's going to do the shums at some point as well as like some of the comedic merch stuff. Well, the thing is with UFOs is I definitely believe there could be aliens out there, right? Because if you think how big the universe is, I don't know if it's actually infinite or just massively really big. I think it'd be impossible for there not to be any kind of alien life or intelligent alien life out there just due to the, you know, endless probabilities of, you know, all the planets and stars and everything in the solar system. However, I don't know how legitimately any have visited Earth, so I can't really say, but I know there is stuff like that, and it wouldn't surprise me if, to be honest, if aliens visited, they might leave behind nuclear radiation as well, or something like that. All right, cool. Richard, take it. Everything's going all right with your Forge then, if you've got no disaster stories for us, but that's good. I'll have to catch up on a couple more of your videos and likes. All the M50, I guess, Chris. I think out of all of the those, I like the look of the trying to think, like of panoramic ones. One I quite like the look of would be like the Polish MP5 in terms of like panoramic style ones, or I've not got one, but the Czech CM4 they did with a panoramic lens. What happened with the Falchion then? Oh, I was going to ask, Mike, did you say you weren't on Twitch tonight or whatever? I can't remember if you said you were going to be on or not. If you're not, that's fine. I'll watch some films tonight. I've never played Battlefield 5, but there's also a character with an FMJ08 on, the Chinese copy of an S10. So again, a mask from like a decade ago or so in a World War II game. Yeah. DICE aren't very good at historical accuracy. I've got Fred's on DVD, Culture of Critique, but yes, Fred's is very good. That's a very big shame with the Falchion. But yeah, all right, I'll watch Chopper tonight then, Mike. Let's have a look at what an M50 with a VPU looks like. Oh, you mean like the big air voice projection unit on the front? Yeah, so it looks like the normal mask bit, doesn't it? Just bulkier, really. Yeah, maybe they just searched World War II mask into eBay and based the models off of all the results that came up for World War II masks. No, it's an IBM Model M, Fred. Do you know what that is? The world's best keyboard. Well, probably not technically the world's best keyboard, but one of the old classics. So I've got a brand new gaming PC, and thankfully I fixed a bloody audio problem on it now. It was a real pain to sort out, but I finally just tried one thing that ended up working after trying, you know, like 40 other things that didn't work. No thanks to Windows 10 being shit, because if it wasn't for Windows 10, it wouldn't have been a problem in the first place. But yeah, so I've got a modern gaming PC, all brand new components and everything, but I've still got the IBM Model M plugged in because, you know, it's still better than modern keyboards. Sorry if you can hear my stomach. My UC's still been a bit bad, although it's getting better this week. It's still been a bit painful today and that, so it's constantly rumbling and, you know, not feeling great in the stomach, but oh well. All right, cool. Let me go to your channel. I don't think I can actually go to your channel annoyingly straight from my stream, because when I'm moderating other people's streams, you can click go to channel, but you can't on your own. But I will go to your channel. Hang on. I'll have a look after the stream. Yeah, I've just Googled your name, and then I can get on that way. Even though I think I'm subscribed to you anyway, I am. Preview for me, how nice. Thank you. I won't play it with the audio at the moment, obviously, because I'm watching the stream, but I'm just clicking through it. Oh, yeah, I kind of recognise that filter. I think I've seen other pictures of, like, those. It might be, like, from industrial uses. They also use those, I imagine. But I guess the idea was that you could have, like, a filter in your belt for it, wasn't it? Which one's a CM30 filter? Let me have a look. Is that just a 40mm or a 60mm filter? You might have to use pliers. It might be woolen without, knowing. It might be that it got cross-thread a bit when you put it on. You might have fully tightened it, and now it's got really wedged in. So you might have to, you might have to just use pliers. If you put a Geiger counter on those planes, just as a kind of worrying thing, because if I had something like that, I would definitely run a Geiger counter over it and see if you pick anything up, because obviously stuff like that, I know they would have probably decontaminated it, but something like that, I would think could potentially be pretty contaminated, pretty hot. All right, Zeus. Oh, I know what a CM3 filter is, though, if you mean that one. Like the Czech CM3 kind of filter, whatever the actual name of the filter is. But yeah, you might want to get, it's going to be more expensive to get one with an Alpha Probe, but I'm saying an Alpha Probe will let you know if there's any contamination on it whatsoever. But even like something like a SOX O&M should give you a reading if there's anything on there. I think tomorrow I'll try and get my video finally done on my thorium lamp mantle. Actually, I've done one on the thorium lamp mantle, haven't I? But I've not done one on my uranium bowl or my tritium, because the tritium's quite interesting. I can show it glowing in the dark. Yeah, as long as you're not touching it. I doubt it's, RBMK reactor levels of radiation spewing off, but it'd be worth just doing it out of interest. Like a regular GP5, because if it's just a regular GP5, that's a scam, essentially, because a GP5 is meant to be like £10 to £20 sort of price range. But obviously, bear in mind, there is the Shum 1, which to an untrained eye would look like a GP5, which is a totally different mask. I hate any overpriced masks. Oh, okay, so it is actually that is the name of the filter. Sorry, Willem. It's just I thought because you get the CM3s and CM4s. I was wondering if you just meant the filter that came with that. But yeah, I think you'll probably just have to use pliers and just kind of, because sometimes I get a thing with like my vapes where if I've I can actually demonstrate this with this. The that bit there can sometimes be really difficult to unscrew. I get this with both my vapes actually. After you've had that on a while, you generally have to use pliers to actually pull this off, because it kind of, it's not fused on or anything, but it just gets really hard to take off by your hands. Right, I think either an asteroid or whatever hitting the Earth Zeppelin, I think that would be a pretty good way of dooming all of us. Sun exploding or something like that. As in, like, non-space things killing us. Probably something like antibiotic-resistant bacteria that becomes really, really virulent. But I don't think that would get the entire Earth's population, but it'd probably kill billions. Yeah, it sounds very interesting, planes, because I don't think there's much information on about those. Yeah, Yellowstone definitely could spike, yeah. Good point on that. I don't know why Yellowstone always slips my mind, despite the fact of like how serious Yellowstone would be if it went off. Right, I'll be on hopefully 15 more minutes, but as I said, because my UC seems to be playing up a bit, if I do really need to run off to the toilet, I'll just end the stream there. Well, funny enough, Zeppelin, you bring that up, it depends what you mean by shit at the fan. And again, we're going off topic from nuclear stuff now, but because I'm chronically of ulcerative colitis, there is no point me having a long-term shit hit the fan plan, because that is die. So, yeah, that answers that. Is that the panoramic one, Woolham? Because that's a very strange looking mask, isn't it? It looks almost like their children's mask was better than the adult mask. Let's have a look at it. Because I mean, I've probably got enough spare at the moment to buy one of those if enough people be interested in me doing a video on it. But, it's sort of an interesting mask, isn't it, that one? I've seen those before. Oh, at the moment, there's some of the really old Yugoslav masks, like the M52s and that on there. And gas mask Neboscia 1, but they're very expensive. They're like nearly £100, but they're very interesting. Never see stuff like that on eBay all that often. Oh, MD1 children's mask. Yeah, that one's coming up, but sadly it's like £17 postage, so I wouldn't go for that. Just because the postage is a piss take price. But yeah, some interesting stuff on there. I'm just going to have another quick search for gas mask on eBay just in case I spot anything that's, you know, an unusual type one. Some FM12s at the moment for £45, just saying when people say they can't see FM12s for a good price. Some cheap S10s with bags at the moment on bid, so it might be worth putting a bid on in case they don't go for all that much. What's going on with the filter on this mask? Oh, it's like the anti-gas thing, isn't it? Ointment that's corroded. I thought that was a filter then. I was going to say, is that the asbestos leaking out? But let me just search. I'll go back to the chat in a second. I just want to search check gas mask in case there's those weird versions of the CM4 for sale by anyone. That's one of those cool ones that looks like the CM3 with the hose, a children's version, but I wouldn't pay like 30 odd quid for that. I will go back to the chat in a moment. I was just getting a bit distracted by eBay, as I sometimes do. All right, let's go back to the chat. Yeah, if you're on about like places in after nuclear war, especially UK, because if you think how many megatons or whatever or kilotons would be thrown at the UK and the size of the UK in general, you're not going to be anywhere that isn't blasted or covered in fallout, basically. If you think it would fit you, $20 isn't too bad for it, but if it's not going to fit you, it's a bit much for a mask you can't really wear. Navy SEALs military gas mask for children. Brilliant. Oh, Israeli civilian gas mask, sorry, but yeah. Navy SEAL copy pasta playing my head. It's on and off working planes. The thing is with the UC medication I'm on, how it generally works is it's kind of like a containment kind of medicine. I don't know what the thing would be, like a control medicine, I guess you'd call it, where you'll still get flare-ups and stuff like that when you're on the medicine, but for the most part it works. And vaping CBD and nicotine is helping as well with it. But you still end up getting flare-ups. You know, when you get a flare-up, it's pretty miserable, but it helps. It's definitely better being on the medicine than not being on the medicine, but sadly, it's not an easy fix kind of thing. Yeah, it's essentially the colon planes. It just, the autoimmune system starts attacking your colon. What it does is it starts destroying your colon from the inside out. The medication basically is there to contain the damage as much as possible. But that's why without medication, UC will eventually kill you because it just ruptures your colon. When you say PNV, do you mean the Soviet night vision or scopes, or do you mean the like PRWUs, whatever they are, the shims with the different assemblies? Internal bleeding, loss of weight, if it's bad, vomiting as well, like serious fatigue, shakes, cold. If you just Google it, you'll find a list. Some people won't always get the same symptoms as other people. I've got a modern night vision thing. The next night vision thing I'll buy is when flares get down to like less than 500, which they're starting to do now. When I've got a load of spare money at some point, I'll definitely buy a flare camera I can record footage with, because flares are really interesting. But a lot of the old Soviet night vision is no better than the stuff I've got at the moment, despite being a lot more expensive and bulky. I think that is too much to ask that eBay sellers know what they're selling. I completely agree with you, but yeah. What was the other one I was going to look up? Oh yeah, Yugoslavian binocular. I wanted to see if any of those were for sale on eBay that the person said about the other day. Shame the postage is so high on some of these, because if the postage was, like a few pounds like it should be. Well, saying that, some of these are like 25 quid. Post 2 worldwide. Might look into getting one. There's enough sellers on eBay with them that I don't need to rush into it. It's not so much stabbing pains of UC planes. It's like if you ever get really bad stomach cramps or like bloating due to like food poisoning or something like that, imagine that. But when you've got a flare up, it's like almost 24/7. As soon as my opioid painkillers wear off, you're aware you're in pain again. Because I at least now get, again, I know people always bitch when I say this, but I guess other people without chronic illnesses, I get like codeine and that on repeat now from the doctors, just so when I've got a flare up, I can essentially be taking quite a high dose of codeine every 4 hours. When I'm not having a flare up, I can be on a low dose of codeine every 4 hours. All right, Michael. Sadly, I'm going off in a minute. So yeah, it's not so much stabbing pains, it's like cramps. Apparently, women that have UC say it's a lot like period pain. Obviously, I wouldn't know what period pain feels like. Kidney stones are more painful, because I've had kidney stones before, and kidney stones actually make you want to commit suicide due to how painful they are. But yeah, it's painful, but the thing is, it's constant pain. That's the problem. Yeah, cheers. But yeah, as I said, it's something you learn to deal with, because it becomes a bit routine after you've had it for years, just because you get used to it. But it's one of the reasons I never put weight on very well, because as soon as I have a flare up, I start losing weight again. The worst time I had a flare up, I went from being something like 70 kilos, which I've been trying for ages to get to. I had a flare up and I was down to about 55 kilos in less than a week. So I lost like 15 kilos in about a week from a UC flare. So, yeah, I haven't weighed myself recently. I ought to, but I'm probably about 58, 59 kilos at the moment. That's because I've been sort of having some UC problems on and off for a while again. You just have to deal with it, don't you? Yeah, I'd say get the one with the whole kit then for lower price. All right, see you, planes. But yeah, that video was interesting. So like I said, I flicked through it. Definitely do a full one on that thing. Yeah, I'll finish the stream fairly soon. So if anybody's got any nuclear-related things or just anything else at this point, because the stream's ending, to throw up, if you want to do it, when I say throw up, I don't mean like vomiting due to radiation poisoning. I just mean throw up into the chat. Do it now before I go off, because as I said, I'm going to have to run to the toilet pretty soon. But we'll see if I can manage a couple more minutes. Anybody? Do you know if it's definitely a Soviet one, some guy, or do you know if it's just a Warsaw Pact one? Because there is... I'm trying to... If I put Warsaw Pact NBC suits in, I'll see if I can get the ones in I'm thinking of. Because East German ones tend to be grey. The Polish ones I've got are like a grey-blue sort of colour, maybe slightly green, but they're not really blue-blue. There's a picture of one that's like a blue-grey, but again, that looks like a Polish suit, that one. So off the top of my head, I don't really know. Oh, this is a cool picture. Let me see if I can open it as the actual image. Yeah, there you go. I don't know if the link's going to be too long to post. Oh, sadly it is. Right, I can't post that. But there's a cool picture of two guys with MM1s on. Pretty sure, yeah, they are MM1s because the eyes are looking directly forwards. I think they're East Germans because it looks like they've got M56 helmets on. Or are they? I can't really tell from this angle. With like loads of foliage wrapped onto their NBC suits. It's quite funny. It's quite creepy looking. Yeah, thank you for the merch announcement, Peach. As I said, for the people that didn't see it, I've had this on all stream with the comfy kangaroo pocket down there. Because, yeah, that came today, which I ordered last week. And the S10 mug. It might be Chris. Let's see if he's got radio equipment on. Yeah, it looks like one's a radio operator. Yeah, you've probably seen it before. Yeah, he's holding a microphone in front of the voice diaphragm. And he's got, yeah, like headphones on. You've probably seen that picture before then. Yeah, I just found it when I was randomly searching for the NBC suit for that person. All right, cheers. Well, I mean, anything people buy gives me a couple of extra, like, pounds. I don't make much because I've got the profit margin set quite small on the merch, so it's more affordable for people. Because some YouTube channels have it set so they make like £10 to £15 profit on a t-shirt. Mine's set to like £2 or £3. But yeah, anything that I do get on there, of course, Bart gets half of it because he draws the pictures. But we'll go towards gas masks, filters, whatever for videos. Yeah, I'm going to Chernobyl next year, hopefully, William, on a couple of days tour. Right, anyway, I'll probably finish the stream now. Thank you, General. So, yeah, maybe General. Let me type in Hungarian NBC suit and just see if that one comes up. Hungarian NBC suit. For some reason, when I type in Hungarian NBC suit, there's a picture of me coming up wearing a Polish NBC suit. But, there's not many pictures actually coming up when you Google Hungarian NBC suit of Hungarian actual NBC suits. But yeah, you might be absolutely right, but unfortunately Google Images isn't helping me very much. But yeah. All right, see you, Mike. Have a good evening. Fallout, you just need gloves you can pull off easily, Alan, or wash easily, because fallout is like essentially a radioactive dust. Lots of people have very weird and boring towels, don't they, Woolham? So I don't think a gas mask towel would be bad for the beach. It would look interesting. Yeah, I've got Chernobyl on Blu-ray. It's very, very good, the Chernobyl series. I'll do just regular videos from Chernobyl, not less. Maybe a live stream from the zone if the internet allows me to. Right, anyway. Thanks, everybody. It's gone over an hour now anyway. I'm going to go off and tend to my stomach, which doesn't sound very happy with me. So yeah, I will be doing a stream tomorrow most likely, but I don't know exactly when yet. It'll probably depend on what time the weather starts raining and I can do stuff outside and not do stuff outside. Right, so yeah, see you everybody. Thanks for joining in.